Watch this.
It just doesn't sit well.
Despite those concerns, the state's largest school district decided to stop emailing parents about COVID cases and exposures in school. Some parents are fine with it, and some others, not so much.
Oh, it is so long overdue.
Idaho's public school teachers are one step closer to getting the same level of health care as state employees, a proposal that will cost millions of dollars. And for those contrarians out there, this is the day you've been waiting for. Opposite day. So whatever you were planning to do for the rest of the day, do the opposite, as we give you opposing views of Idaho. Well, instead of more transparency when it comes to COVID cases in schools, parents in the West Ada School District will be hearing from the district a little less now. During this school year, the schools have been sending out emails to let families know of confirmed COVID cases and possible exposures in classrooms. Well, last night, during a regularly scheduled board meeting, a new board chair and vice chair were elected, and that would be Rusty Kofelt and Lori Frazier, respectively. And they didn't waste any time. In a 3-2 vote, the board decided to stop sending out those COVID exposure emails. As you can imagine, there are those who feel slighted by that decision and others who feel, Here's Katya Stepovic.
Dozens of parents showed up to West Ada's board meeting Monday night to give their 2 cents in 2 minutes on the district's COVID protocols.
COVID is here to stay. It's time to put a plan in place that works. It's time to mandate masks.
We just ask that you please do not go back to mandatory masking.
I'm asking the Board of Education to stop medical decisions on behalf of the parents.
And the board did stop one thing, letting parents know when their kids have been exposed to COVID-19 in the classroom.
There's a big unknown out there. And with all that data going out there, it just kind of creates that fear.
This is Rusty Kofelt, the new board chair. He's referring to the West Ada School District's COVID-19 dashboard.
This dashboard, this emailing to our families, we're feeding into that fear.
While the district didn't pull the plug on the data dashboard, 2 other board members agreed that notifying parents of a possible exposure does more harm than good.
I do question the exposure notifications. I've seen several emails come through where parents are it's just sheer panic. I think this variant is just going to burn itself out. It's fast and furious, and I don't know. It's time to move forward.
The board did decide in a 3-2 vote to stop emailing parents about close contact, and that doesn't sit well with everyone.
Not everybody feels exactly the same, right? So I have some concerns with taking away a parent's right to know what's going on with their child in our school.
And now some parents are concerned.
We have a medically complex child whose primary diagnosis have to do with respiratory status. So this being a respiratory disease that he has no existing protection for, we need to be able to know if he's had an exposure to start monitoring for those symptoms.
Emma Ballantyne has a 3-year-old in developmental preschool in the district.
It honestly made my husband and I consider whether or not we wanted to pull our kiddo from school.
She says keeping her son home from school would hinder his development, and she can't afford to have someone come into their home every day. But she understands why parents may get frustrated with the daily emails.
I understand that it can be frustrating to hear once again that your child's been exposed and to have to go through the whole process of deciding what you're going to do with that information and feeling like you're continually bombarded by it. So truthfully, I have compassion for them from that perspective. We have to go through the same decision tree on steroids.
I get 4 emails at least a week, and I don't have any idea which kid they're for because they're not specific. Even though they're in the same grade, they have different classes.
While it may be a nuisance, the bigger concern, they say, is the threat of not knowing about an exposure.
And at the same time, I have a chronic form of leukemia, so I need to make sure that I myself am safe.
And while both parents try to be understanding of the new decision, they say the district's move brings on more COVID fears.
Don't they have to notify us when, our kids are in a space that isn't safe? I don't know. It just doesn't sit well.
And when they struck down the mask mandate, that was one thing, but this is a whole other, and it feels like they've decided that this maybe doesn't exist. And I don't know that that's how we get out of this.
I did hear from some parents regarding the Boise School District's method and that they no longer notify parents of exposures. Well, I reached out to Boise School District and I have not been able to confirm that. One district that I did get back from was Nampa School District, and they told me in our secondary schools we are no longer sending out letters to parents, but our principals do send regular reminders to parents weekly to check that dashboard to see how many students and staff at their schools have reported positive cases. Now, at the elementary level, they say they continue to send home a letter if a student in their child's classroom was present while they were contagious. And I did reach out to parents who were happy with West Ada's decision. None of them agreed to go on camera with me, but I will say that the majority of folks who commented on our social media posts were not happy with the district's move. Brian?
Yeah, and it's easy to see it from both sides. Not wanting to be the bearer of bad news doesn't mean you shouldn't still bear that bad news. But if you get a dozen of these emails within a short amount of time, and as a parent, you just kind of go, yes, and I mean, I could see it on both sides of that.
Absolutely, me too.
All right, thank you very much, Katya. Idaho teachers have been through a lot over the last 2 years, and Idaho lawmakers say they want to do what they can to support them. They say that socially and financially. A proposed bill would do the latter by letting teachers keep more of their paycheck. So how? Well, it would change their health insurance benefits in a really good way for educators, we're told. Here's Joe Paris with an explanation of what some are calling game-changing legislation.
Proposed legislation at the Idaho State House aims to keep more money in the pockets of teachers. How? By upgrading school district employees' health care coverage to the same level as state employees.
I've actually been working on it for about 3 and 4 years. When I first came in the legislature, I always wondered why teachers didn't have the same benefits as state employees. My benefits were so much better than teachers and the teachers in my area.
Republican Representative Rod Furness is sponsoring the legislation. He says over the last few years, he's been to at least 100 meetings about his idea and collected data across Idaho on teacher benefits. Furness says his proposal would free up money that teachers are using now to cover insurance. Using the Emmett School District as an example, Furness explains the difference between current health insurance for teachers and what is proposed.
We have a $2,500 deductible. To be on the plan in Emmett is $1,100 for a family. If they go on the state employee plan, that'll save them about $700 a month. That'll be a raise to those teachers and staffers in Emmett.
The proposed bill creates a dedicated fund to power the program. Lawmakers would still need to vote on another bill appropriating funds. To help pay for the idea, though, the bill would get rid of a current program that gives bonuses to teachers who take on extra leadership roles at school. Right now, that program costs about $20 million a year, so that money would be used to help pay for the idea.
It's just amazing that we can do this for our teachers.
Democrat Representative Sally Toon is a career teacher and education advocate. She was excited to see the bill pass the Idaho House with major support. She says this will greatly help rural school districts who simply don't have the insurance buying power that West Ada or Boise school districts may have.
Every school district and school boards will have that option, but this is an option that is a good option. It's not a $6,000 deductible. This is competitive and it makes our salaries truly go further in our world.
Kitchen staff to our janitorial staff, our bus drivers to our certified teachers and administrators. This is going to be a great opportunity for them to start to get a quality insurance that's affordable. It's going to put money right back into their pocket.
Lane McAnally is the president of the Idaho Education Association. IEA has advocated for better salary and benefits for Idaho school staffers. This, they say, will make a major difference.
We know right now our classified staff, they're living paycheck to paycheck, and some of our certified staff are as well. So to do anything that we can to put more money back into educators' pockets is greatly beneficial.
Supporters of the bill say this will also help address another issue, keeping valuable Idaho teachers and school staff in state.
I live near the Wyoming border. I'm probably 60 miles from the Wyoming border. I've seen quality individuals drive that and receive higher pay. This bill will help those teachers stay in the areas where they live, where they know the children, where they can do the best teaching that they can do, and this will be good for Idaho.
All right, Joseph, so attracting and retaining those teachers, obviously a big part of this. You mentioned that $20 million that could be used to pay for it. But is that going to be enough? And what are other people saying that maybe this won't be enough?
So that $20 million on its own from that program would not pay for all of this altogether. However, the governor did essentially include this idea in his budget. Representative Furness telling me that last year he brought the idea to the State House, but it really wasn't in the governor's budget, so it didn't work out. There was an idea last year about possibly slashing some teacher pay to pay for better health insurance benefits. But with the influx of cash into the state of Idaho and with a large surplus and in the governor's budget, there's really a lot of money, millions of dollars for improving education and really improving conditions for educators. There is a lot of support at the State House that there is the money to do this. However, Brian, anytime we have something like this, whether it be education or anything, there will always be select lawmakers that say maybe this isn't the best use of funds. Is there another way to do this?
That's right. That's the refrain you hear anytime anybody brings up another government program. That's true. So a few more hurdles it has to go over. We'll see. Thanks, Joe. Well, those in charge of the state's purse strings at the Idaho legislature wasted little time in picking up where they left off last year, especially when it comes to the higher education budgets, leaning into allegations of, quote, wasteful spending and, quote, I should say, social justice programs. The state's universities and colleges are delivering their budget requests to members of JFAC, the legislature's budget-setting joint committee. You may remember last session when lawmakers cut $2.5 million from higher ed budgets, with the goal to remove support of those, quote, social justice ideology programs on campus. It was a theme that took over the session last year when it came to education and the money to pay for it. Several Republican lawmakers offered unsupported accusations of critical race theory being taught in Idaho schools and students made to feel uncomfortable for being white and male. It was likely why those budget discussions went on until May of last session. Well, yesterday, the committee heard from Kurt Liebig, the president of the Idaho State Board of Education. He told them they sent out a survey to more than 55,000 undergraduate and graduate students at all 8 of Idaho's public colleges and universities. 9,000 responded. Liebig says a supermajority of students said they felt valued, respected, and have a sense of belonging at their respective institutions. And it broke down like this. 89% said they feel valued. 97% feel respected. 68% never or rarely feel pressure to affirm or accept beliefs they find offensive. 81% reported never or rarely feeling ashamed or bullied for sharing their personal beliefs or viewpoints. And 91% said they feel safe to express their personal beliefs or viewpoints with others. Liebig told the committee there is obviously still some work to be done, but they do plan to conduct this survey on an annual basis. That survey, we're told, will be made public in about 2 weeks. Representative Ron Nate of Rexburg, who was one of the several Republican lawmakers to cut university funds last year, he brought up critical race theory in his very first question. Liebig told him the State Board of Education has spent exactly 0 seconds talking about CRT. Rather, he says they spent their time trying to get these kids through a global pandemic, not chasing ghosts. Then this morning, JFAC heard from Dr. Marlene Tromp, president of BSU. Remember that $2.5 million cut to the higher education budget? Well, it was $105 million of that was taken, or I should say $1.5 million of it was taken from Boise State directly. And a provision in the bill was for the State Board of Education to evaluate and maybe direct where students' fees would be spent to limit programs that promote social justice ideology.
I was surprised to see instead of a reduction or a tapering back of these programs, BSU actually created a new anti-racism center with social justice programming in its mission statement. So instead of a decrease, I'm actually seeing an increase in social justice programming. Am I missing something at Boise State?
I would say we have evolved our programming. So I would say that matches the desire of the bill. We have evolved our programming, but that doesn't mean we have reduced the kinds of offerings that are available to our students.
Representative Nate pressed Dr. Tromp 3 times on that issue, and she offered the same answer all 3 times. President Tromp did expand to say evolved programming also includes extensive work in educating students and staff on thinking for themselves. This year, higher education in Idaho is asking for a 2% increase over last year to $313.1 million. We're about to do something on this show we've rarely done. The opposite of what we usually do on the perfect day for it. All right, a reminder, the 208 text line is open 24/7. You can text us now or later, whenever it's convenient. But to make it on today's show, to join the conversation about what we're talking about today, you'll have a few more minutes. 208-321-5614. Just make sure you include your name and the hashtag the 208. Send us your questions and comments, and we'll try to share as many as we can at the end of the show.
Yeah, I should do the opposite. I should.
If every instinct you have is wrong, then the opposite would have to be right.
Yes. I will do the opposite.
You know, George Costanza has to be the patron saint of Opposite Day, which is today, January 25th. So for the next few minutes, I'm going to be wearing a tie, the opposite of what I would usually do, and something on this show that would usually go over like a lead balloon, which is, by the way, an oxymoron. 2 words to make up one figure of speech consisting of words with opposite meaning. A clearly misunderstood part of our American language, like bittersweet, crash landing, jumbo shrimp. So on this opposite day, we thought we'd take a look at some things that would be the counterpart of the 208. Okay, so the opposite of Idaho, its antipodal point of the globe, lands somewhere in the South Indian Ocean. And in this case, it's almost exactly Port-au-Français on the Kerguelen Islands in the French Southern Territories. A kind of loose-fitting fortuity, since Boise began as Les Bois, French for the woods. To get there might take a minor miracle without a place to land a plane, but what a working vacation it would be if you don't mind sharing the space with a small crowd of people who live there. From a wider view to a narrower one, what state would be the opposite of Idaho? Well, if you go from the northwest to the southeast and you slide one state in from the coast, in our unbiased opinion, that would have to be Tennessee, the volunteer state, where more Union soldiers originated than any other southern state for, yes, the Civil War. All right, let's make our optics less open. Boise, home to the Broncos, who play on a field of blue, surrounded by fans who like to be louder than a dull roar. The opposite of blue, on the color wheel, would be orange, and what some would call a pretty ugly combination. Not us, though. No, we think blue and orange go together like salt and pepper, like breakfast for dinner, like laughing until you cry. We did wonder if there's an opposite of the potato, by the way, the state vegetable. Maybe a fruit, like the state fruit. How about the huckleberry? No lemon, no melon? Nope. See what I did there? That is called a palindrome. I did I? Yes. Spelled the same from the opposite end. That's what that is. Same difference, as they say. So on this opposite day, try eating your dessert before your dinner tonight. Maybe with your opposite hand. What not to do, though? Do not drive on the opposite side of the street. Okay, so one more thing for opposite day. Photojournalist Kevin Esslinger went out almost exactly 6 months to the day on July 26th of last year, and then today, January 25th of this year, to bring you this winter-summer opposite view of the city of trees. All right, before we get to your comments for today, we wanted to pass along some birthday wishes for photojournalist Kevin Esslinger. He's been with us since day one, and he's the one that makes us all look so good doing what we do on a day-to-day basis. That's him on the right of your screen. That's him at work, carrying the heavy equipment, getting those shots that we need to tell those stories, and the natural sound, and putting it all together so beautifully. So we just want to say thank you, Kevin, for doing what you do, and happy birthday. We hope it is a good one. I won't tell everybody how old you are. Cool. All right, let's get to your comments that you sent in during today's show. This one: if the parents don't want to see all the emails about possible COVID exposure from West Ada School District, who voted to not send out those emails anymore, they can just delete them. There are many parents who want to be informed. Terrible decision, says Jack in Boise. So West Ada School Board is stopping notifications of exposure to COVID in order to reduce fear, asked Paul. Isn't that why the proverbial ostrich sticks its head in the sand? It's a pretty good question, and the sentiments of a lot of people as well. I think what they're trying to do for our teachers is fantastic. They need to do this to keep our qualified teachers in the state, says Bob. A lot of people also saying they are in favor of increasing or changing the health insurance possibility for Idaho's teachers to be the same as a state employee. 55-14 was the passage of that in the House. 14 of the legislators voting against that, by the way. We had another question that said, who would vote against it? Well, 14 of House members did vote against it. So our esteemed legislators are requiring social injustice. From John, this is in regards to the budget and the higher education budget and the hope to reduce this so-called indoctrination, the social justice ideology. Apparently, that's what they're looking for. So whether they want injustice or not, that's beside the point. Hey, Brian, what time is the prom? Asked Jim in Boise, referring to my coat. You don't like the stitching on the lapels and the rest of it? That's pretty good. And other people ask about my tie and how it doesn't go together. I just found this on the floor in the studio to make a point today. That's okay. By the way, Colby's dad, opposite day, says he likes me 74% of the time today. All right.